We're talking about libraries today. One of the most beloved of all institutions, libraries are facing new challenges from the dumbed down movement of the current administration. In fact, they oppose anything that makes people smarter. They've slashed funding for education from preschool through college. They've cut research grants into important scientific studies, and they've gone to extreme measures to eliminate federal funding for museums and libraries. Why is this important to you and future generations? Because facts matter, the truth matters, historical accuracy matters, and learning and knowledge are of vital importance to a functioning democracy. My mom was a librarian at the Indiana State Library for many years, and I've been a journalist and an author of more than 30 books, most of which are in libraries across the country. I've also spent hundreds of hours in libraries studying and doing research, and I'm not alone. Americans visit libraries more than 1 billion times a year, significantly more than the attendance of Major League Baseball, NFL football, NBA basketball, NHL hockey, and NASCAR racing combined. But every Trump budget since 2017 has proposed ending the Institute of Museum and Library Services entirely and cutting all of their funding. Shh. We're doing libraries again, part two. While every American should be concerned about an administration that's trying to dumb down their constituents through funding cuts to libraries, museums, and education, the attack on libraries is particularly galling to me as a journalist and author of more than 30 books. They're also trying to force agencies like the Smithsonian to rewrite history to reflect a more positive view. But raw history, a true representation of the facts, provides many lessons that help us navigate the future more successfully and give us an accurate view of the hardships and progress experienced by our ancestors. Trump is not the first one to try to dismantle libraries and history. The ancient Alexandria Library once held thousands of scrolls dating back, we think, to as far as 4000 to 6000 BC, near the beginning of the written word. But we really don't know for sure what was in that library because Caesar burned much of it and other leaders let it go into disrepair and eventually shut it down. The dawn of civilization probably goes back at least 100,000 years, but we only know a tiny fraction of that history. So far, despite Trump's efforts to erase libraries and museums, grassroots movements led by groups like Every Library have persuaded Congress to override the president and fund these agencies, but it will only keep working if you keep working to make sure Congress keeps the funds coming. Shh, we're doing libraries again, part three. Of course, libraries contain books which enrich the mind and challenge the intellect, but there are books out there that some people don't like, and they've burned and banned books hundreds or thousands of times in recent years, a phenomenon that once was a rarity in the United States. Well, obviously, as a journalist and an author, I think that's a terrible, hideous, un-American trend. You may disagree, and that's your right, and I respect it. We could probably go out and play a round of golf and have some fun. And I kind of get it in certain respects, particularly in the children's book genre, because, well, these ain't your grandpa's Dick and Jane readers anymore. Children's books have evolved in certain directions that sometimes make even me a bit uncomfortable. But it's not my place to judge. There are a lot of political books from both sides that wouldn't make my recommended list, but the author has a right to write it, and I have a right to disagree or ignore it. It's a free society, and it needs to stay that way. Free speech, the First Amendment, it's what separates America from the tyrannies of the past. It's worked for 250 years, and if you're concerned about the children's books in your library, get organized and meet with officials to try to work it out. But just because you don't like a certain book doesn't mean others wouldn't find it valuable. Banning books, burning books, it's not just unconstitutional, it's un-American.